Early winter mornings in Boston always carried sharp winds that whipped through the corners of every street. Lily Bennett glanced at her watch as she hurried down the hospital's dimly lit corridor. Just 10 more minutes until the end of her shift, and an hour until school let out. She paused, took a steadying breath, then checked the chart for her final patient of the day. "You've worked hard today, Lily," a fellow nurse called out with a warm smile as they passed. Lily managed a tired grin in return, her exhaustion thinly veiled. Being a single mother had left its mark, lines of fatigue and worry, but her warm brown eyes still carried a quiet, enduring kindness. "Thanks, Megan. I've got to hurry, I need to pick up Liam." After clocking out and changing into her street clothes in the locker room, Lily left the hospital in a quick stride. As she jogged toward the bus stop, her thoughts turned to her son, Liam, a gentle, sensitive boy, only 8 years old. He was her whole world. By the time she arrived at the school, children were already spilling through the gates, laughter and chatter echoing in the chilly air. She scanned the crowd, searching for that familiar small figure. There he was, a few steps away, bent down to tie his shoelaces on his own. "Liam." The boy looked up at the sound of her voice. When he saw her, a soft smile lit up his face. But behind his smile, there always lingered a subtle shadow, a sadness Lily had never quite been able to chase away. "You're early today, Mom," he said quietly. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, "Did you know some people make over 10 grand a month just posting Reddit stories on YouTube?" No face, no voice, just a laptop. Lily blinked, caught off guard by the shift in topic, and laughed gently. "I do it too," Liam added, matter of fact. "Link below if you're curious." She shook her head with an amused sigh. "Yes, I remember, today's pizza day, right?" "I promised." They climbed aboard the bus and rode toward home, their small, modest apartment nestled in an older part of the city. Though it wasn't fancy, Lily worked hard to make it feel warm and welcoming. Framed photos she'd crafted by hand adorned the walls, and thrift store treasures added bits of character and charm to every corner. "Did you finish your homework?" she asked as she rolled out the pizza dough in the kitchen. "Yeah. Math was easy," Liam replied, "but the family tree assignment," his voice faded as he trailed off. Lily paused, her hands still on the dough. That topic always landed like a stone in her stomach. Her own family ties were tangled at best. Her parents were alive, yes, but things between them were strained. Especially with her sister, Sophia. They'd drifted apart over the years, worn down by constant comparisons that had started in childhood. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. "Everyone else is writing about their dads and grandparents." Lily knelt in front of him and took his small hands in hers, grounding both of them. "Families come in all shapes and sizes, sweetheart," she said softly. "Ours may be small, but that doesn't make it any less real." She offered her best smile, but inside, the ache of old wounds pulsed anew. Liam's father had disappeared before he was even born. And her own parents, especially her mother, Eleanor, had shamed her mercilessly for becoming a mother out of wedlock. Sophia, meanwhile, had always been the golden child. Now she was a marketing director for a luxury resort, praised and admired. Later that evening, while Liam finished his homework in the other room, Lily sifted through the day's mail. Bills, flyers, and then an elegant envelope. She knew what it was the moment she saw it, thick, cream-colored paper embossed with gold lettering. An invitation. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Sophia Bennett and Ethan Bradford." Lily stared at it for a long moment, then quietly closed the envelope. Even at the rare family gatherings, usually spaced 3 years apart, Sophia and her mother never missed a chance to look down on her, or on Liam. The thought of attending the wedding made her stomach turn. But then she reminded herself, this was for Liam. To show him that family, even when flawed, still had worth. She grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, took a long sip, and calmed herself. The next morning, on her day off, Lily made her way to visit her mother. The house in suburban Boston was the same one she'd grown up in, but it no longer felt like home. When Eleanor opened the door, she didn't offer a hello, just a judgmental glance. Lily, surely you're not planning to wear that to the wedding. Typical. Hello, Mother. Thank you for the invitation, Lily said, holding back the sting. Sophia sent it, Eleanor replied curtly. I didn't see the point, but she insisted all family be invited. Ethan's family is, well, very refined. I hope you and that child won't do anything to embarrass us. Lily took a breath, steadying herself. How many times had they had the same exhausting conversation? How is Liam? Eleanor asked, her voice barely disguising her discomfort. She always seemed hesitant to say his name. He's doing well, Mother. He'd really like to see you, Lily said gently. Yes, well, when I have time, Eleanor replied, her tone distant and noncommittal. In truth, she'd only spent a handful of moments with Liam over his 8 years of life. Lily ended the visit soon after, swallowing her disappointment as she made her way home. Tears threatened, but she held them back. She had made a decision, for Liam and for herself, she would attend that wedding. Again and again, she repeated the mantra in her mind like a vow, family is important. That's something he needs to understand one day. When she returned to their apartment, Liam was curled up by the window, quietly reading. Lily sat beside him and wrapped her arm gently around his small shoulders. Liam, she said softly, Aunt Sophia is getting married. We've been invited. He nodded silently, his eyes still on the pages. He didn't respond with words, but Lily understood. He, too, carried the weight of their complicated family, even in his young heart. On the morning of the wedding, Lily adjusted the knot in Liam's tiny tie and glanced at their reflection in the mirror. She wore an elegant navy dress she'd found in a second-hand shop, an item she'd saved several months' salary to afford. Liam stood quietly in his little suit, looking older than usual, more serious. You look very handsome, she said, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Ready? Liam gave a small nod. He didn't speak, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of nerves. Lily placed her hands gently on his shoulders. It'll be all right, she assured him. Today is a special day. We're here to celebrate Aunt Sophia. They rode in a taxi through the suburban streets toward the historic church. Lily stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. She had debated this decision countless times, but in the end, she had come for Liam, to show him what family meant, even if it was imperfect. When they arrived, the church parking lot was already packed with sleek, luxury cars. Inside, the venue buzzed with chatter and the rustle of expensive fabric. Taking Liam's hand, Lily drew in a breath and stepped through the doors. Lily? She turned to see a paternal aunt she hadn't spoken to in years. My, how you've grown, the woman said, eyeing Lily up and down. And this must be Liam. Her tone was cordial, but her eyes gave away the quiet judgment as they lingered on Lily's dress. After a few shallow pleasantries, the aunt drifted back to her group of relatives, and soon their laughter floated back through the room. The church was exquisitely decorated, white blossoms, cascading greenery, and flickering candles. Lily and Liam quietly found seats near the back. Before the ceremony began, Eleanor appeared beside her, dressed in a flowing, expensive-looking purple gown. I'm glad you came, she said in a hushed voice, her eyes scanning the front rows. Ethan's family is seated up front, those men in the black suits. The Bradfords. They're a well-established family in this area. His father's big in real estate. Lily gave a nod, but her mother was already turning away, more invested in appearances than connection. At the front of the church, the Bradford relatives mingled with quiet elegance. Ethan's mother, adorned with a string of pearls, greeted each guest with a practiced smile. But when her eyes landed on Lily and Liam, that smile flickered, tightening for just a second. The pipe organ swelled with sound, and the ceremony began. Sophia entered the room, radiant in a white gown, escorted by their father. She looked stunning. Lily watched silently, her heart full of mixed emotions. There had been a time, long ago, when she and her sister were close, just girls, full of dreams and secrets. When had it all gone wrong? Mom, Liam whispered, Aunt Sophia looks really pretty. Lily smiled softly. Yes, she does. She looks beautiful. The ceremony unfolded with solemn grace. Sophia and Ethan exchanged their vows beneath a canopy of soft candlelight. He was tall, classically handsome, and looked at Sophia with genuine affection. There was no doubt, he seemed like a good man. Afterward, the guests made their way to a nearby luxury hotel for the reception. The ballroom sparkled with opulence, polished chandeliers, flowing drapes, and a towering pyramid of champagne glasses. At the reception desk, Lily gave their names. The attendant hesitated briefly, then said, yes. Your seats are right this way. They were led to a table tucked near the edge of the room, almost obscured from view. The chairs around them were empty, isolating them from the rest of the gathering. Mom, we're kind of far from everyone, Liam said quietly, anxiety tugging at his voice. Lily kept her tone calm and reassuring. It's all right, sweetheart. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. As the reception carried on, the bride and groom began making their way from table to table, greeting guests. Lily, holding a glass lightly in her hand, watched her sister from a distance. Sophia looked radiant, smiling gracefully at each stop. Eventually, Sophia arrived at their table, last of all. Lily, thank you for coming, she said with a composed, almost scripted smile. Then she turned to Liam. I'm glad you could make it to your aunt's wedding. There was no warmth behind Sophia's words. Liam offered a quiet, polite congratulations, but Sophia had already turned her attention to the next guest, her smile now fixed on someone else. It's time for a toast, the master of ceremonies announced suddenly. We'd like to invite the bride's sister, Lily Bennett, to say a few words. A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to Lily. She froze for a second, completely caught off guard. But then she rose from her seat, recovering quickly. For Sophia's sake, and for the sake of appearances, she offered a small smile and lifted her glass. Sophia. Ethan. I truly congratulate you on this new chapter, she said, her voice calm and steady, though quiet. As your sister, I'm happy to see you find someone who brings out the best in you. May your life together be filled with love, patience, and joy. It was brief, but genuine. Lily returned to her seat. Sophia stood and smiled, her posture graceful, her tone charming. Thank you for those lovely words, she said. Then, with a touch too much emphasis, she added, not many people know the real connection between Lily and me. She's always been a role model to me. There was a pause in the room, a shift in the air. Although I chose a different path, Sophia continued, it's because of Lily that I ended up meeting Ethan at all. On the surface, it was a tribute. But beneath the polished words, there was a subtle sting, a quiet criticism of Lily's life choices, neatly cloaked in praise. Eleanor gave a small, approving nod, pleased by her younger daughter's elegant delivery. Lily kept her smile fixed in place, even as her hand gripped Liam's tightly beneath the table. He didn't say a word, but there was something in his eyes, a quiet knowing. At only 8 years old, Liam already understood more than he should have. As the reception wore on and the atmosphere began to loosen, Ethan made his way to their table alone. Nice to meet you, Lily, he said softly. Hello, Liam. Congratulations, Lily responded with polite restraint. Ethan glanced around their isolated table, his brow furrowing ever so slightly. You're a very patient person, he said, his tone carrying a weight that hinted at more than the words alone. Then he turned to Liam, crouching down so their eyes met. I respect your mother, he said sincerely. She's a remarkable woman. He stood again and walked away, disappearing back into the crowd alongside his new bride. Lily watched him go, a strange sensation tightening in her chest. What did he mean by that? Did he know something about the tension within the family? Still, the reception carried on, now shifting into dancing and celebration. Lily and Liam remained at their table, quietly observing from the sidelines. No matter how much the rest of the room pretended to be one big, perfect family, she and Liam would always be on the outside looking in. But still, she smiled, for her son's sake. Liam, she said softly, brushing her hand against his cheek, are you hungry? I'll go get you a slice of cake. She stood and made her way toward the cake table. There, unexpectedly, she found herself face to face with Ethan's mother. You're Lily, the older woman said, her voice even and her expression unreadable. Your son is a lovely boy. Lily blinked in surprise. Thank you, she replied cautiously. I've heard about you, from Ethan, the woman added, offering a faint, polite smile before turning and walking away. Lily stood there for a moment, unsure how to process the exchange. Back at the table, she handed the small plate of cake to Liam and sat beside him. This wedding, this entire day, was a carefully orchestrated performance. Everything glistened with the illusion of a perfect family. But underneath it all, the truth was complicated, messy, and far less graceful. Still, as she looked at her son, she felt peace. Because whatever else could be said, their bond was real. The lights in the venue dimmed slightly, casting a soft, magical glow across the ballroom as the reception entered its final act. The MC's voice rang out again, full of enthusiasm. And now, a special surprise from the bride. Sophia, Ethan, please step into the center. Sophia, radiant in her gown, took Ethan's arm and walked gracefully into the spotlight. With practiced charm, she took the microphone. Everyone, thank you so much for being here today. It means the world to us. She smiled wide and turned her gaze directly toward Lily and Liam. Big sister, and Liam, we've prepared a special seat for you. Lily's brow furrowed. She exchanged a confused glance with her son. They had seats already. Liam tugged gently at her sleeve, nervous. Sophia continued her speech, her voice sweet with sentiment. Family means everything to me. Today marks a new beginning, and I wanted to do something thoughtful for my sister and nephew, because they are, and always will be, family. 2 staff members appeared and approached their table. This way, please. Lily stood slowly, unease crawling up her spine. They were led to a small table set up in a dim corner of the venue. And there it was. A worn-out table, with 2 mismatched, scuffed chairs, completely unlike the polished elegance of the rest of the room. Lily stood frozen for a moment, stunned. Liam looked up at her, wide-eyed. The room went on glittering around them, but this little corner told a very different story. The table wobbled when Lily touched it, and the chairs creaked beneath them, uneven and flimsy. Worse still, a small, laminated sign sat on top, casually placed, temporary break area, warning, crying noise. The sound in the room swelled with murmurs, but around this corner, time seemed to freeze. Lily stood rooted in place, momentarily speechless. Liam clung to her hand, his small fingers tight with confusion. Please have a seat, one of the staff members said without emotion, gesturing toward the sad little table. Lily drew in a slow breath and gently placed her hand on Liam's shoulder. It's okay, she whispered, steadying herself for his sake. They sat down. The table leg buckled slightly, and the chairs felt ready to give way at any moment. Then came Sophia, approaching with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Trailing behind her were Eleanor and Ethan. Ethan's face carried a look of clear confusion, he hadn't been part of this. Sophia raised her voice to the guests. So, what do you think? My surprise, she beamed. These are she hesitated for a beat, her expression faltering. My pets. A flicker of panic crossed her face before she tried to correct herself. I mean, my sister and her child. There was a ripple of uneasy laughter across the room. Some guests looked away uncomfortably. Others chuckled more freely, not sensing the full weight of what had just happened. Eleanor stood beside her daughter with a pleased smile, proud of the moment. Ethan's brow furrowed. He reached out to stop Sophia, but Eleanor quickly stepped in. What a charming sense of humor, Sophia, she said loudly, addressing the room. There's love even in a doghouse, after all. Lily went still. A hot flush crept up her neck. This was no mistake. This was planned, a deliberate humiliation dressed up as a joke. And then, she felt it. Liam's small shoulders trembled beside her. Lily glanced down. Under the table, her son was trying his best not to cry. His lips quivered, his eyes brimming with tears, but he didn't say a word. Not one complaint. Not one protest. "Mom," he whispered, voice barely audible. Lily gripped his hand tightly. Then she lifted her gaze, face set with quiet resolve. She was about to rise when Ethan stepped forward first. His expression was sharp, full of anger. "That's enough," he said, his voice low but clear. Sophia looked at him, startled. "Ethan, it's just a joke." "It's our special day, this is not a joke," he cut in, voice firm. Taking the microphone, Ethan turned to address the entire room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "I owe you an apology. What you've just seen was not part of anything I agreed to, and I won't stand by and let it happen." The ballroom fell into a stunned silence. Sophia went pale. Eleanor froze, her satisfied look melting away. "Lily and Liam are people I hope to welcome into my family," Ethan continued. "And I will not allow them to be disrespected." He looked directly at Lily. "Please, come sit with us at my family's table." He extended a hand toward the head table, where his parents sat. His father stood up and gave a respectful nod. Ethan turned back to Sophia. "If this was your idea of love," he said, his voice colder now, "then you're not the person I thought you were." Sophia stared at him in disbelief. Her flawless wedding day was crumbling before her eyes. Eleanor, too, was speechless, her carefully crafted narrative unraveling in public view. Lily rose slowly and took Liam's hand. "Come on, sweetheart," she said quietly. Her tone was calm, but her heart was pounding. Under Ethan's guidance, they made their way across the room to the head table. Ethan's parents stood to greet them. His mother gently ushered Liam to a seat beside her, smiling warmly. "You're a brave boy," she whispered kindly. The tension in the room still hung heavy, but in this small circle, warmth flickered into existence. Sophia tried to pull Ethan back, whispering something urgently, but he shook her off with cool finality. Eleanor hovered behind her daughter, her once proud posture wilted as eyes from every corner of the room followed their movements. Their plan had backfired, utterly. Lily wrapped her arm protectively around Liam's shoulders. She thanked the Bradfords for their kindness, her voice steady but touched with emotion. As the food arrived, Liam began to relax, bit by bit. He looked up at his mother, voice small and unsure. "Mom, is it okay for us to sit here?" Lily smiled softly and leaned in close. "Of course, baby. We've done nothing wrong." Ethan sat beside them now, his expression serious. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "I had no idea this would happen." "You've done nothing wrong," Lily replied gently. "In fact, thank you." The reception continued, though the air remained thick with tension. Later, when the dancing began, Ethan performed the traditional first dance with Sophia, but their distance was impossible to miss. No matter how close they moved, the rift had opened wide between them. Afterward, Ethan approached Lily once again. "May I have this dance?" "You don't have to," Lily said, startled. "I want to," Ethan replied, his gaze earnest. "I'm asking sincerely." She hesitated, then rose to join him. As they stepped onto the dance floor together, the entire room turned to watch. From across the room, Sophia and Eleanor watched too, frozen in place, their faces tight with fury and humiliation. "I'd like to meet with you and Liam tomorrow," Ethan said quietly as they moved together across the dance floor. "I have something to discuss." Lily nodded, though a quiet storm churned inside her. Her heart was a mix of hesitation and fragile hope. This wedding had turned into something far beyond what she'd imagined: humiliation, courage, and the appearance of an unexpected ally. As the reception wound down, guests began slipping out early, the atmosphere still tinged with unease. Lily and Liam said their goodbyes to Ethan's parents, who embraced them with kindness, and quietly exited the venue. In the backseat of the taxi, Liam leaned against his mother's shoulder, his small body heavy with exhaustion. "Mom, how was today?" he mumbled, eyes fluttering shut. Lily gently brushed his hair back, her voice a whisper. "Sometimes, things get hard. But pushing through those moments makes us stronger. And today, Liam, you were very brave." He gave the faintest nod before sleep took him. The next morning, as the smell of pancakes filled the kitchen, Lily stood at the stove, lost in thought. Yesterday's events played again in her mind like a strange dream. The cruel surprise, Ethan's public stand, his sudden request to talk. Liam sat at the table, quietly drawing a small furrow between his brows, processing it all in his own quiet way. It was hard enough for grown adults to recover from something like that. How much more so for an 8-year-old child? "Good morning, Liam," Lily greeted as she served him a plate. "What are you working on today?" "A picture of our new family," he answered simply, his tone serious. "Ethan and his mom and dad are in it too." Lily leaned down to look. The drawing was careful and heartfelt, her and Liam, drawn hand in hand with Ethan and his parents. There was no Sophia. No Eleanor. "That's a beautiful picture," she said softly. Just then, the doorbell rang. She glanced at the clock, 10 a.m. Right on time. Opening the door, Lily greeted Ethan politely. "Good morning, Ethan." He was dressed down in jeans and a sweater, a quiet contrast to the polished man from yesterday. In his hand was a small paper bag. "Thank you for making time," he said, his expression serious. "I brought something for Liam." Inside the bag was a beautifully detailed wooden model airplane. Liam's eyes lit up as he accepted it. "Thank you, Ethan." "You're welcome." "Liam, why don't you go play for a bit while I talk with your mom?" Liam nodded and padded off to his room, clutching the plane. Lily led Ethan to the living room and poured them each a cup of coffee. "I really am sorry about yesterday," Ethan began. "I believe it was all planned." Lily nodded, her voice quiet. "Sophia's always wanted to prove she's better than me. It's been that way since we were kids. But yesterday, that was something else." "I agree," Ethan said. "That's why I've decided to postpone the wedding." Lily blinked. "What?" "After yesterday, I saw a different side of her," he said with a long breath. "And honestly, even before that, there were warning signs. Every time your name came up, she referred to you as Lily the failure or my sister with the kid." Lily stared down into her coffee cup, the words echoing in her mind. "She told me her family values loyalty above all else," Ethan continued. "But it was her who made her own family feel unwelcome." He paused, then looked her in the eye. "You were brave, Lily. Standing up in that room, holding your son, most people would have broken under that." "I just did what I had to," she said quietly. "I've heard things, fragments, from Sophia, from others. I know it hasn't been easy for you. A single mother working hard, with little support from the people who should have stood by you." Lily remained silent. But in that silence everything was said. "This morning," Ethan continued, "Sophia and Eleanor came to see me at the hotel." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Already?" "They claimed it was all a joke. That I overreacted. But my parents were there, too." "Even your parents?" Ethan nodded. "Especially my mother. She said, 'I don't want someone who insults family becoming part of ours.'" Lily sat with that truth, a strange wave of emotion sweeping over her. Her own family had never stood up for her. Yet here was someone else's, offering protection, dignity, even care. She gave a dry laugh. "Rumors are already spreading. I got a call this morning from a neighbor. Are you okay?" "Boston's social circle is small." Ethan smiled faintly. "The Bradford family's eldest son standing up to the bride's family in the middle of a wedding? That'll keep tongues wagging for months." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden, loud knock. When Lily opened the door, she found Sophia and Eleanor standing there, both fuming. "Lily," Eleanor snapped, grabbing her daughter's coat. "What have you done? What did you say to Ethan?" Mother, I didn't let us in. Sophia pushed through the doorway, only to stop cold when she spotted Ethan inside. Ethan? What are you doing here? She demanded. Ethan rose to his feet, calm and collected. I was speaking with Lily. About yesterday. That was a joke. Sophia's voice spiked. You took her side on our wedding day? A new voice rang out from the living room. I'd like to hear more about that joke. It was Ethan's parents. They had quietly entered through the open door, now standing just behind him. Sophia blanched. Eleanor's face drained of color. Mrs. Bradford, Eleanor began, grasping for dignity. This was all just a small misunderstanding, but the air had shifted. The Bradford family's social weight far outweighed the Bennets. This wasn't just about family now. This was about character. And the room was watching closely to see who would rise, and who would fall. Eleanor attempted to recover the situation, her voice strained. This is all just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding? Ethan's mother cut in, her tone sharp and unwavering. Making a child cry, my future grandchild, and humiliating his mother in front of an entire room? That is not a misunderstanding, Mrs. Bennet. That is cruelty. And I am astonished at the values on display. Sophia turned back to Ethan, clinging to what little hope she had left. But, our marriage, I'm postponing it, Ethan said quietly, firmly. At least until I understand who you really are. Ethan. Sophia's voice cracked. You're being manipulated by Lily. She's always been jealous of my happiness. Sophia, that's enough, Eleanor snapped, gripping her daughter's arm. Only now did she start to understand the gravity of the moment. If their relationship with the Bradfords shattered, her social standing would suffer a blow she couldn't afford. Just then, Liam emerged from his room and walked to his mother's side. He stood tall, small shoulders squared with determination. Don't speak badly about my mom, he said quietly but clearly. Lily rested her hand on his back, overcome with pride. Ethan's mother bent slightly to meet Liam's eyes and gave him a gentle smile. You're very brave, young man. Sophia and Eleanor had no words. Their carefully orchestrated plan had collapsed, and now they were the ones facing consequences. Let's go, Eleanor said stiffly, her voice low. The two women left the house in silence. For a moment, the living room was still, as if the air itself was recalibrating. Lily hugged Liam tightly, then turned to the Bradfords. Thank you, she said, her voice rich with emotion. You stood up for us. I'll never forget it. Family, Ethan's mother replied kindly, means standing beside each other, even when it's hard. 6 months later, Boston was wrapped in the gentle glow of early summer. Sunlight streamed through the apartment windows, warming the modest space with a golden light. Liam, are you ready? Lily called from the kitchen. Ethan will be here any minute. I'm ready already, came his cheerful reply. He ran in with his new backpack slung proudly over one shoulder, beaming with excitement. Much had changed in those 6 months. Ethan and Sophia's engagement had officially ended. Eleanor's standing in Boston's social circles had taken a sharp downturn. And yet, somehow, through it all, Ethan and his family remained close to Lily and Liam. Weekends were filled with outings, baseball games, science museums, and now, fishing trips. Ethan treated Liam like his own nephew, always with patience, always with joy. The doorbell rang and Liam raced to answer it. Ethan. On the other side stood Ethan, smiling warmly. Hey, champ. Ready for our fishing trip? Yup. I packed everything myself. Lily came to the door, watching with a quiet smile. As the two prepared to leave, Ethan turned back and gave her a gentle wink. Between them, something had taken root. It wasn't romance, not yet, not quite. But it was real, a bond built on mutual respect, trust, and shared care. As Lily tidied the apartment, the phone rang. She picked it up to hear Mrs. Bradford's familiar voice. Lily, have you made plans for Christmas? Nothing special yet. Well, we'd love for you and Liam to spend it with us. Ethan's cousins and their families will be coming. I think Liam would really enjoy it. Lily's chest swelled with gratitude. 6 months ago, she'd been standing alone. Now, she had found a place, not by blood, but through the quiet strength of chosen love. Thank you, she said softly. We'd love to come. After hanging up, Lily stood by the window. Far across town was the direction of her childhood home, the place where Eleanor still lived. Sophia and Eleanor now lived in relative isolation. The wedding scandal had left a wide ripple, and many former acquaintances had quietly turned their backs. Ironically, they now knew the loneliness Lily had once endured. Just last week, she'd bumped into Sophia at the supermarket. Her sister, once always poised and polished, looked lost, her expression tired, her spark dimmed. Lily, Sophia had said, stumbling over the words. How are you? Lily had paused. I'm all right. You? I wanted to apologize. For that day. For everything. But I don't even know how. Tears had welled in Sophia's eyes. Lily had stood quietly, then replied in a calm voice. Some things take time. But someday, let's talk again. She wasn't ready to forgive, not completely. But she didn't want to carry hate either. Maybe, just maybe, Sophia would come to understand what family truly meant. That evening, Liam and Ethan returned from fishing. Mom. Look. Liam held up a gleaming fish, his eyes sparkling with pride. I caught it myself. Lily laughed, her heart full, and wrapped her arms around her son. She glanced at Ethan and gave him a look filled with quiet thanks. That's amazing, Liam. Let's grill it tonight. Then she looked at Ethan. You'll join us, of course? Wouldn't miss it. They gathered around the small dining table, simple, warm, full of laughter. As stories from the day were shared and smiles passed around like shared light, Lily sat back and took it all in. In that moment, she knew something deep in her soul: family isn't made of blood. It's made of hearts that choose to show up, to protect, to love. And in that love, a new kind of family had been born.